we definitely have seen real, challenging times and sad moments, especially for the immigrant community and Latinos in particular over the last, um, year and a half. I hope we collectively learn from that. That this is not okay. The profiling, the targeting, the discrimination, the hate is not okay. And we collectively have a lot of responsibility to make sure our families and our children are part of a society that is much better than what we have right now.
Welcome to another episode of Uptown Voices, where you'll meet the unsung heroes transforming Washington Heights, Inwood, Harlem, and the South Bronx. I'm Octavio Blanco, a veteran journalist. My co-host, Led Black, is the voice of Uptown. This is Uptown Voices. Welcome back to Uptown Voices, where we amplify the stories and the people that make this community the heartbeat of New York City. I'm your host, Octavio Blanco, and I'm so excited for tonight's conversation. But before we bring in our special guest, we have some major news to share about the future of this podcast. First, we are incredibly close to a huge milestone. We're approaching 500 subscribers on the Uptown Collective YouTube page. This isn't just a number. This benchmark is a crucial step towards long-term sustainability of the series and the stories that we tell here. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button right now and help us get over the finish line. And to keep this momentum going, we have another big announcement. Uptown Voices is now officially a fiscally sponsored project of the Maisels Documentary Center. This means we are now able to accept tax-deductible contributions to support our production. You'll see a QR code on your screen right now. Scanning that is the easiest way to invest in local media and to help keep these Uptown Voices loud and clear. We appreciate the support more than we can say. Now let's get into tonight's episode. Tonight, we are honored to sit down with a true daughter of Uptown. Ambassador Julissa Reynoso's story is the quintessential Washington Heights immigrant story. She arrived here from the Dominican Republic at just 7 years old, finding her footing right here in the streets of Washington Heights. It was in this neighborhood, its resilience, its complexity, and its deep sense of community that became her first classroom in diplomacy. Um, you know, she didn't just grow up here. She fought for her neighbors here, beginning with the career advocating for the legal rights of immigrants in northern Manhattan. Ambassador Reynoso, there's so much more to say about your life and career. We'll get into that in this episode. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm fabulous. Thank you for having me be part of this great initiative with the Uptown Voices. I'm very grateful for the opportunity, and I'm congratulate you on hitting the milestone with followers.
Thank you. And my partner here, Led Black, is the voice of Uptown, unofficial voice of Uptown. And he's really the cornerstone of this program. He's been really there for the community for his whole life, and he created an Uptown Collective more than 10 years ago, and has a really strong following Uptown. People really like to hear from him, and that's why we're doing this program together. So, Led, I'll let you take it from here. You get the first question.
First of all, Ambassador Reynoso, it's a real honor to have you here. A daughter of Dominican Republic, a daughter of Uptown. My question is, like, how do you go from, small town Dominican Republic to the heights of like leadership? What's that trajectory like? How do you do that? Like, and you're still so humble, and now you have a play. What's the central thing that keeps you doing all these things?
Well, I try to just work at everything I get. I'm open to learning continuously from people and experiences. I never assume that I'm done. I always kind of keep pushing myself and try to experience every part of my existence, be that as a lawyer, a student, a community person, a family member, a friend, as really an enriching experience on its own. And my story, my history growing up in partly in the Dominican Republic and obviously coming here as a 7-year-old to New York City, really shaped the way I view the world and how I think. And so and so that's really been essential to my continuous growth in how I deal with problems and approach different opportunities.
And if I may
That's
piggyback on that,
yeah,
Octavio, really quick,
yeah, go for it.
sometimes, neighborhood like Washington Heights is we're looked down upon, right? Like, we don't matter. But what about growing up in this neighborhood prepared you for the life of diplomacy and just excellence that you have lived so far?
So I'm going to correct you for a little bit. Like, I actually came to the South Bronx. I know. It's a rival
We
neighborhood, but
still cool. It's
I
the
grew
X. We
up
cool
in
with the
the
X.
I arrived in the South Bronx in 1982, and I spent my childhood, obviously traveling a lot to Dominican Republic every opportunity I had, and then when I got to as a young adult, I moved to Upper Manhattan, to Washington Heights. When I went to law school, when I went to Columbia, I moved to Wadsworth, where you near your street,
Yeah,
and then
my neck of the
Bogart's
woods.
place. And then I spent, a good number of years, gosh, probably a decade or so, in Upper Manhattan, working, with the community, practicing law, learning the law, and then practicing it. And I learned tremendously from my different contacts and groups that I belong to, and people who came from all walks of life who ended up in Upper Manhattan and had really become civically engaged with organizations, with political parties, with organizing. And so I really felt like my world was shaped, especially my view of foreign policy and politics. They were they were carved and molded by my time in Washington Heights.
Yeah, if I was going to just ask you a little bit about that, a little bit more. Your early career, you were deeply involved with NIC, the Northern Manhattan Coalition for Immigrant Rights,
Yes.
NMCIR, and so you saw a lot of the legal struggles that your neighbors had firsthand. How did that influence your decision to get into public service?
I I always, growing up in the Bronx, obviously a very poor neighborhood, and then um doing work as a young adult in Upper Manhattan, I felt that this city has and then working in, Midtown, working with so much wealth, I really felt like we were, was living a very privileged life. But also couldn't understand kind of how we were faced with so much disparity and inequality in this city, with so much differences in opportunity and economic kind of livelihood, really. So I thought I could do something about it, and I had to. I felt like it was my obligation to be as helpful to people as possible, given all the opportunities the country and the city had given me as an immigrant. So I always kind of try to navigate my life as a professional and a lawyer and someone who went to very good schools, with my relationship and my obligation and commitment to seeing if I can improve the community's kind of realities. That's what I've tried to do.
Ambassador Reynoso, let me ask a question though, like of a life of diplomacy, of being a lawyer, how
Yeah,
do you go from that to being a playwright, I guess? You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
your play Public Charge chronicles your time in the Obama administration. How'd you get there? What's it like seeing yourself, in a play? Talk to us about that.
So I am a big fan of um of the arts, and using the arts as a method, as a vehicle to improve our um our existence and our story, and telling our story. Oftentimes our stories are not told, or if they're told, they're very limited, or the story of not our complexity. And I thought that through the arts, especially for me, storytelling, writing has always been a very useful tool to kind of showcase the diversity of our experiences as a community. So I decided to write a play with the help of a friend, um and I'm, and I it was not easy because it's a lot of work to want to write it, but also make sure it's actually staged, and that people like it, which, not all those things are not necessarily, the same thing. But I am really I'm really happy to say that, I'm proud of what I did, and I think people enjoyed it, and they hopefully learned something, and also showed kind of our story, or at least part of our story, or the collective kind of experience of people in New York City, and how we do things that are interesting and distinct. And though we do all types of things. We're lawyers. We're home. We work at home. We're cab drivers. We also diplomats. And so that's what I wanted to showcase. And in it also you will see there's a big there's a very important scenes in the neighborhoods, especially in the Bronx. And because I did learn a lot from my surroundings and my exposure to foreign policy from talking to my family and to my neighbors.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of secret meetings in dark places and maybe not so dark places.
Yeah, it was all
I
over the
think
place. Yeah.
yeah. The play touches on the 2010 Haiti earthquake
Yes, that's
and
right.
reestablishing ties with Cuba, right?
Yes. Amongst
So
other things, yeah, these were some of the foreign policy problems I had to face.
yeah, and so why is it important to tell about these high stakes diplomatic stories through theater rather than like simply a memoir or something like that?
With theater, you could be a lot more creative. I mean, this is, like anything else. It's based on a true story, but there are things that you have to kind of tell in a way that makes sense to stage. You can't. It's not like a transcript, right? There's a level of creativity and art that has to be showcased. So I am. I just thought it was and also every night I saw the play enough to know that every night that actor is going to do something different with a word. And I think that level of transformation and imagination is really fun. And so that's why I thought I would do it through a play. It's probably harder to pull it off as a play because, again, you got to do all this stuff. And frankly, it's not like a book that you can pick up and then put it down and read it again. Play is there, and then it's over. And then hopefully
Yeah.
you'll see it, somebody else will produce it. But for the most part, you can see it for a period of time. So anyway, that's why I decided to do a play.
Like, can I just follow up real quick?
Go ahead. Yeah,
So
yeah.
so one of the interesting things that I learned about you is that you had all these secret meetings, and I
Uh-huh.
and and um and I wonder, like, how does, like, growing up in Washington Heights where things are kind of, you know I think you have to have a certain level of like street smarts and street knowledge. How does that sort of like influence like your actual you know uh work and your these meetings and having secret meetings and going being somebody that's behind the scenes
Yeah,
and
no,
actually, doing
I
things that are
mean,
quiet on the quiet
yes,
side.
no, I look, as I said, I think, that level of, common sense and, street smart, if you will, like being able to navigate really hard things. Uh, Obviously, there are things that are academic that you have to learn in the books, and the reasoning and the vocabulary are things you have to study. And you got to put in the hours and the days and become a scholar, if you will. But there are other things that are not necessarily learned in textbooks, and that is kind of navigating diverse, complex, hard things. And in the New York life, as you all know, there's so many people here from all over the world, and so many differences, and so many backgrounds, and so many ideologies, religions, ethnicities, races. And they're all here. And this is a very extraordinary experiment on in how to make different people talk to each other, that in other parts of the world they may not be so open to. So I've learned a lot about diplomacy and coexistence by having by my through because of my my time in New York City growing up here.
Ambassador Reynoso, I gotta say, first of all, you're such an inspiration to so
Thank
many,
you.
right?
Thank
To
you.
come from where you come from and to reach, the levels, to go from the heights to the heights of diplomacy is amazing. So, but
Thank
I
you.
wanted to ask you a question about continue with the play. You know,
Yeah.
one of the things that one of the core themes of the play is the belief that government can be a force for good. Right now with what we're going under the Trump regime, how do you maintain that optimism? How do you feel about where we're at now as a country, as a nation, as a people?
Well, I mean, the country has faced really challenging times in the past. I'm a big fan of this country. Obviously, it's given me every opportunity in the world, really. I believe we are a people of good. Like any other democracy, we, we make mistakes. I am hopeful and have a lot of faith that this will get to a better place. But we definitely have seen real, challenging times and sad moments, especially for the immigrant community and Latinos in particular over the last, um, year and a half. I hope we collectively learn from that. That is, this is not okay. The profiling, the targeting, the discrimination, the hate is not okay. And we collectively have a lot of responsibility to make sure our families and our children are part of a society that is much better than what we have right now. And so we, as a significant, portion of the population, we need to learn from what we did, and we've learned from our mistakes, and hopefully, through our vote and through our voices, can change the direction of the country for the better.
Yeah, that's very, very well said. I'd like uh, to move a little bit to present day.
Uh-huh.
Your play looks at a time when we're reestablishing ties with Cuba, but then if you just turn the headlines, the climate has shifted dramatically. The Senate just blocked a war powers resolution
Yeah.
that would require Congress to approval for any military action
Yeah.
against Cuba. So, given your history of building bridges in the region, how do you process this shift towards this potential military escalation? What does this path mean for the Cuban people and for the stability of the Caribbean as a whole?
Yeah. So, I'm not there in the government right now. I'm thankfully here in New York City with you all. I know these are very hard and complicated decisions. Um, I We've been trying to get Cuba to a better place for a long time. Some things have worked, many things have not. I think military action usually does not work. We have the record that shows that, not just in Cuba, in most parts of the world, unless it's essential, and again, unless we are there's a direct threat to the country, which I don't see right now. So I think there has to be a better way to deal with this to reduce the suffering of the Cuban people, but also to have dialogue with, to ensure that we minimize violence and that type of military and aggression, because we don't win. People who suffer the most are usually the most vulnerable when there is conflict. And ultimately, in the long run, it doesn't really get you much, but a lot of anger and bad blood. So I really hope that, given all the necessities that the Cuban government, the Cuban people will figure out a way to talk to this administration and advance, what I think is in their best interest, which is to open up, the country to change. But I also know that if the U.S. thinks that the military action is the way to do it, that has not worked in the past. So I don't. I am. There has to be a better way, and I think that the dialogue is the way to do this.
Ambassador, I know your time is short. I was going to ask
Yes,
you a few more questions.
unfortunately.
Yeah, really quickly. So you were chief of staff to Dr. Joe Biden during an
Yeah,
incredibly tumultuous
wonderful,
time.
wonderful human being.
COVID-19, January
Yeah.
6th. What was the most rewarding of that complicated, that time in the East Wing? Tell us what did you gain from that? Like what was the biggest takeaway for you?
Well, I love her. She's just a wonderful, wonderful human being, a really, really special person. I wish more people would, know her. I just think she's fantastic.
I
And
think I liked her more than him sometimes. Yeah.
say it again.
I think I liked her more than him sometimes. But yeah.
Well, we all have our choice, our interests and our choices. Well, anyway, I love her and I know her well and think she's the world of her. So getting to know Dr. Biden and her vision was really wonderful. Obviously, being exposed to the White House and what it does and how it works and the president thankfully gave me a lot of opportunity to learn about domestic policy, foreign policy, the Washington. It was extraordinary, the whole experience. I mean, I was there for a year and a little bit, a year and change, and then I went to Spain. But it was one of the most impactful times of my life.
And I know that like Led said, we're short on time,
Yeah,
but um, you know, for young people who may see you as an example or a blueprint, do you have any advice for them, especially for those who grow up uptown,
yeah,
young women, young men, who might be sometimes they might be the only person of color in the room?
yeah,
How do they show up? How do they fight against imposter syndrome?
yeah.
How do you what's your advice about that kind of stuff?
Very good, Octavio. We all face our own challenges and our own insecurities, and that's just, I think, the nature of the beast. I am not, I have not, I have also obviously faced my own, you're questioning, am I supposed to be here? Do I know what I'm doing? And then you move on. So I mean, it's okay to feel that way. And I think making sure you understand that, you know, uh, most of us, you got to do the best you can. Assume that you always have to be open to learning. And there are things that, and don't assume you know everything because you don't. Uh, but these challenges, and there will be, and they have been, will really, I think, allow people like us to learn more. I got very lucky because I had so many opportunities in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up and getting into great schools. Things have gotten harder, I think, for a lot of young people. But I do believe that with humility and open mindedness and love and relationships, which are, I mean, for me, most of the things I've gotten have been through my relationships and my loyalty to people are really, I think, essential. And you may not see the return in the short term, in like tomorrow or to next week, but in the long term, I think that's the best way to move forward. And then just continuously learn and read and be open to kind of new opportunities.
Ambassador Reynoso, thank you so much for being on the show. We
Thank
really
you. Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
gentlemen. It's been a
And
pleasure. Thank
likewise,
you,
good luck with
Ned.
everything you're doing. Mad love. Really, really appreciate you. Thank you.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank
It's
you
been
for
a
your time.
pleasure. Take care.
So there you have it, folks. Thank you for tuning in. This was a big get, Octavio. This was on you, brother. Thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give us a like, share, tell your people about it. Like, stop playing. Spread that love. We're trying to
Yeah.
reach a milestone. All right, y'all? Thank you.
Spread that love. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for joining us in this episode of Uptown Voices. If you enjoy our work, please consider making a financial contribution to Uptown Voices. Contributions go a long way. You can contribute by scanning the QR code on the screen or visiting bit.ly/Uptown Voices 2026. If you can't make a financial contribution, please spread the word about our show to friends and family. And to stay up to date on the latest in Uptown, you can follow Uptown Collective on Instagram, Facebook, and X. If you're watching Uptown Voices on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and to give us a like. Until next time, this has been Uptown Voices.
Hey yo, Kyla, o que loca yo caldo.